The show was, it was an iconic show. And when we first talked, I told you, I wanted to, exactly, in our show, we actually brought you up. I wanted to be you, because you were given this, Mr. Hinckley, was given this great gift.
Yeah.
And what adolescent, child, or anyone wanted that gift to become a superhero? Oh, look at that. There it is right there. Well, I mean, the character was given this gift. And
I can see it on my obituary on the news. When I die, that picture's going to go.
Because the television, the TV Guide magazine that you were in was actually, it was illustrated. It
was illustrated. They wanted me to do TV Guide, pose in my suit, and I said, no, I won't do it. And so they said, okay, we own the licensing, we own the image, so we'll just draw you. And they did. I was mortified. Mortified. Well, you know, here's what you have to remember at the time. You can hear me back there, yes?
Yeah, there are crew, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Here's what you have to remember at the time. It was a death knell to your career to do something like that, to become a comic book character. I mean, this was just after Adam West, you know, ask any of those guys. I mean, it was hard to find real work. And I was a serious actor working in New York and doing legitimate theater. And but I said I'd do this because it was so funny. And the money was great, I won't lie. But it really pigeonholed me. And what happened now is that you have the Robert Downeys and Hemsworth, and you have Mark Ruffalo and Ed Norton, and everybody wants to have that superhero franchise because they pay them bajillions of dollars, and they still are able to go do their other stuff. But back then, you couldn't do it. They put you in a box, and that was it. I didn't frickin' work for a long, long time. I had to be very, it was like catch as catch can, because I was a cartoon character.
It was the Mountain Film Festival.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He has tons of useless knowledge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did Baby Secret of the Lost Legend with Sean Young, and I've done some other great things. But
really good dinosaur movie.
It was a good dinosaur movie, though. The dinosaur. This was before CG, yeah. So you know.
It's really there.
Yeah. By the way, there is talk of more than rumored, that they're redoing Greatest American Hero. There's a new book that I know was 20th Century Fox had ordered a script. But beyond that, and that was about 6 months ago, beyond that, I know they hired a director, but beyond that, I don't know if it's been greenlit to be shot. I know it's going to be all an urban cast. It's not going to be like it was. But that's okay. That's okay. The guys who produced Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, the remake recently, those are the guys that are producing.
Now, you voiced a lot of, you have a huge connection to the comic book community.
Oh, yeah, I voiced, yeah.
Hawkman, you were in Brave and the Bold.
He loves you because of that.
Well, you know, I tell you what, I did that for over there, and I think they were unhappy with me because...
Really? I thought you did great. In the video game as well, Brave and the Bold, Batman is what he was.
Yeah, but you know why they didn't like me? Because they said, the director said that wanted me to get my voice down and be more manly. And I'm just freaking too immature.
Welcome to the Angrygeeks show. Well, you were also on Batman the Animated Series as Moxie, which again, perfect. I knew your voice right away.
Yeah, but I haven't done any voiceover animated work in a long time.
So if you could be any hero in an animated movie, what would it be? What would be your dream?
Well, no, I like being Hawkman. I wish I could have continued to be Hawkman.
You should have, because you were in the Brave and the Bold video game plus the episodes. Yeah. You did great.
Yeah, they didn't care for me.
Well, too bad, because we loved you.
Yeah, let's run a letter campaign. Yeah.
Being at a con and meeting your mass fans and everything, have you ever been requested to sign anything odd?
Oh, yeah.
weirdest thing? Someone say, sir, can you autograph this? What was the weirdest thing?
Excuse me, sir.
No.
Yeah. No, I don't really remember. I signed hats and skin and, things like that, but not too extraordinary. Baseballs are kind of weird for me because I'm not a baseball
Yeah.
player, I don't know. An eyeball would be weird if I ever signed an eyeball. But no, that's it.
So how do you feel coming to the cons and meeting people? I mean, having a group of people in a room just to hear you talk? I mean,
Boy, you guys don't have anything better to do? That's what I have to say. I'm sorry. No, I'm really happy to meet people. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love coming out to these things, is I love meeting the fans and seeing what got them off and, what made them happy. It makes me feel happy. It's, I get a rush from it vicariously.
Do you geek out about anything?
Do I geek out about anything? I recently just saw The Martian, which I missed in the theaters, and I geeked out about it.
Really?
I watched it once, and then I watched it 3 more times right away because I was so happy. And what's the funny thing is I knew the ending every time, and every time I go, yeah! We got our boy, yeah! The world is cheering, and I'm in my bedroom going, yeah!
well,
That's pretty geeky.
Yeah, it is very. So, what another movie that you geek out? You watch more than once?
I love Lawrence of Arabia. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. There's so many just wonderful movies. Alien, I loved, and Aliens too. I mean, I was like, yeah! I loved it. It's one of the scariest films in the world. I go, yeah!
Favorite character in Aliens?
Oh, the monster.
Why not?
Yeah,
of course. That was the star.
Yeah.
That was the star. So, all right. So, if you could redesign the suit, if there is a remake, obviously you want to be involved. We all want you involved.
I'd be involved. I don't know. I'm sitting down here with Lewis, was Buckaroo Banzai, and Kevin Smith is now signed on. He's writing for TV, and they're going to redo it, which is fantastic. And this is so clever. They're making all the old cast. They're making them the bad guys and having a new cast. Brilliant. Who better than Kevin Smith to do it?
Absolutely.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Great director.
He'll be able to pull it off, especially for TV.
Yeah.
I think he'll pull it off very, very well. God, you being late really low criteria.
That's all right.
With we already talked about.
Oh, I missed it.
What did I talk about?
Auditioning for Luke Skywalker.
Oh, I did talk about auditioning for Luke Skywalker. What I did not say is that George Lucas and Brian De Palma, they held which everybody probably knows, they held their auditions at the same time. So every young guy, up-and-coming talent in Hollywood, and every young gal, up-and-coming young talent, auditioned for these people for all the pivotal roles in those 2 films, Carrie and Star Wars. And then they narrowed it down, which they typically do, from 200 to 50 to 25 to 10, and then everybody got to do film tests for all the things. And I film tested for Carrie twice, and I film tested for Luke Skywalker twice. And what they had you do is they had, like, my audition with Kurt Russell, I was Luke Skywalker once, and he played the other character, and then we switched, and we did it again.
So you could have been Han Solo as well.
We auditioned for both.
That I did not know.
Yeah.
I was doing homework last night.
Yeah.
For the people that don't know about Sparks, would you care to explain about the comic?
Sparks was a film I did a couple years ago. I got to play the bad guy, and it was based on a comic book that a friend of mine, Chris Foligno, had written.
Catastrophic Comics.
Catastrophic Comics, which was a comic book company that we shared together. And we did a few things. We also had another book called Mythology Wars. We did 10 books, and we never released it because we didn't have the finances to release it.
We know comics. And I was like,
Yeah.
what?
It was really good. It was really great. It was really great.
What's the premise behind it?
The premise was kind of Hercules comes to Earth, but he doesn't know he's Hercules, right? And what happens is Zeus loses his power rod, and the whole thing is getting the power rod back to Zeus. And of course, everybody wants the power rod that holds the key. And Hercules, through a series of trials, finds out that he is indeed Hercules. And that was the premise of the whole story. He didn't know he's Hercules, and it was in modern day.
That's awesome.
Modern day.
That's great. Does anyone here have a question for Mr. Katt? You, sir?
So it's sort of a two-part question. I'm curious to know what you're watching these days, and either TV or movie, and then what do you think is being done really well, if movie or TV?
Well, the only thing I watch these days, of course, I'm watching the primary race. It's funny. I keep waiting for Trump to start juggling. I watch that. I watch the news a little bit. The only thing I watch with regularity on TV, I would say, is Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I was gonna.
And I've become, like most of America, a lot of the world, huge fan, and I was so happy with the episode this last week.
Yeah.
It was just like the old Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So satisfying. So satisfying. And what was the second part of the question?
Just sort of, what's your opinion, if you have a favorite, so if you want to go on the Game of Thrones road, right? What do you think of the show? Have you watched? What do you think compared to the
Great
movies?
storytelling, great writing. The art direction is brilliant. The costuming is brilliant. The photography is just a consummate artist who's doing the photography. Direction is beautiful. The casting is spot on. You couldn't ask for better actors. It's always lightning in a bottle to get the right cast together. You don't know how the chemistry is going to gel with one another. But it's just, I think it's one of the best shows on the air. It's been, for me, it's awesome.
Have you read the books?
No.
Question?
So I really enjoyed Heroes. What was it work with Robert Culp? Do you guys have a good relationship as far as in that series?
Well, it's famous. Robert Culp and I did not get along when we first started. And I think it's obvious if you watch Greatest American Hero and you watch the first 90 minutes, the pilot episode, you can see in the very beginning when they first meet in the cafe, when Ralph is taking the kids on a field trip, we meet in the cafe. There's a little bit of an altercation there. Then when we finally get the suit, Bob Culp, the FBI, comes to talk to Ralph in the bathroom and kind of read Ralph the riot act, the way it's going to go down, who's in charge, who's the boss, who's listening to who, that he's the guy. And that doesn't jive with me, And there's real tension in that scene, and there was real tension on the set during that part of the filming, the first 2 or 3 weeks of filming. And then after that, true story, I went to Bob Culp's trailer and I knocked on his door and he opened the door and I said, "Mr. Culp, can we speak for a minute?" And we walked in and I said, "Listen, we're going to be working for a long time together. Let's try and work this out." We agreed to a formal détente. So we had a nice working relationship and we continued on from there. And we did. We had a fast friendship for the next 30 years. And Connie and I fell in love with Connie as soon as she walked on the set. I mean, she was one of the prettiest women on the planet with her black hair and green eyes. And a mouth like a sailor.
That's true.
Oh, God, she told the most blue jokes every morning. She would have the makeup trailer and hair trailer laughing hysterically at 5:30 in the morning because she was so funny. Yeah.
And part two is just what are you up to nowadays? Are you doing directing? Are you doing more?
I've done some directing. I did some producing. As some people know in the room, with my friend Chris Valino, who we did Catastrophic Comics with. We did Sparks, the film I did. He has a company called Sideshow, not Sideshow collectibles, Sideshow Productions. And he does a lot of toy commercials for Bondi, MGA, Spin Masters, Jakks Pacific, Toys R Us, works with Mattel, Disney, Fairy Princesses, Tinkerbell, all those commercials he does with his company. And I started line producing for him. And I've done that on and off for about 5 or 6 years, and we do 30 or 50 commercials a year. I've just recently pulled back, and I'm not doing that as much with him anymore. Just because I needed more time my mom has not been well, I needed more time there, and other family issues. So, but we're still fast friends. I can probably go back anytime I want, but I probably won't do that anymore. I had directed a few films, The Clean and Narrow, which did very well, went to HBO and Cinemax and Showtime, a couple other things. I did another 2 films that were both great, but for some reason never got released. They're still sitting in a can somewhere. Hopefully one day they'll be out. Primarily TV movies, but
How does
good.
that happen? I mean,
Well, how that happens when you make a film, what happens is that the producer, the guys who are the money people, they get this ego that, oh, we're going to make X amount of dollars. And they've promised to their investors they're going to make 200% on their money. Well, when it comes clear and apparent that the film isn't going to do 200%, they still owe that to those guys. So if they release it and it doesn't make that back for those guys, they still owe it out of their pocket. And they owe Screen Actors Guild, and they owe the DGA, the Directors Guild. So there's a lot of fees and things that as soon as they sell that film, they have to make good on. So it's cheaper for them to just write off the loss, which they can write the entire loss off over 5 years and not release it.
so it can be award-winning magic in a bottle.
Yeah, it's not just my stuff. There's a lot of this that goes on.
Yeah, that's sad. Another question, Mr. Katt? Yeah.
What would you say would be your favorite episode that you've ever filmed for the show?
Of Hero, Beast in Black was my favorite episode. Beast in Black was, I think it was in our 2nd season, and it was about, it was very, it was dark. It was a dark episode. And Bob Cope, everyone gets possessed. Was it Bob Cope gets possessed or I got? Yeah, Bob Cope gets possessed. Bill Maxwell gets possessed by this beast, and I have to go into the 4th dimension to get him, right? And we got so many letters, the network got so many letters from people saying that their children were extremely scared and how dare we do that, that they would never allow us to do that again. And it was my favorite episode.
I love my favorite episode is the one when you took out the supercar. That was the blue Dodge Charger.
Oh, really?
You lifted it up, and it was a great scene where Bill Maxwell had the gun because the car was bulletproof, and of course Mr. Hinckley had to fight it. And he lifts up the car, and they did a thing called shake and bake, where you had to shake the car and you shot bullets into the car. That scene was just amazing, because at the time the Dukes of Hazzard was on it. You took out a blue General Lee. It was just amazing. I had to bring that in. Another question for Mr. Katt? Come on, you guys have to have something. You?
Are you in touch, or have you been in touch with any of the other actors on the show, like Tony or Rhonda or any of those kids that were in your class?
No.
There was just too much of an age gap, or?
No, there wasn't that much of an age gap. There was only maybe a 7 or 8 year age gap. A lot of those kids that you thought were my high school class were a lot older than they appeared.
Sure, yeah.
I stayed in touch, and I saw Michael Pare quite a bit thereafter. I've seen Michael quite a bit. And I see Connie periodically. Connie Selica, I see once in a while. She's a very private person. As you know, she married John Tesh. And so they pretty much retired. They have an enormous estate on a mountain overlooking Beverly Hills. And he runs his radio programs from up there. And she's pretty much retired and doesn't work very much anymore. And she's extremely happy, has taken care of herself. She looks as pretty today as she did 30 years ago. The other people, Faye Grant, I lost touch with. I saw her a few times when I did some episodes of Seventh Heaven. Steve Collins, she was still married to at the time, and poor Faye. I hope everybody knows what happened to Steve Collins. I haven't talked to her since then. That's it, you know. I was very good friends with Bob Culp until the day he passed. I had seen him the week before. He was going to go, he had a movie he was going to do in the summer of 2011. He was excited to be a director again, and that's it, pretty much. I still see, you know who I'm good friends with is Dennis Danger, who was my stuntman on the show. And I still see Dennis Danger. He's still one of my best friends. I see him and talk to him at least every 2 or 3 days.
Now, the flying sequences in the show, that was all blue screen, correct?
Blue screen, yeah, and green screen.
And green screen.
Yeah, the first year on Greatest American Hero, there was a stage like the size of the conference room that this being held in. And they painted it all blue, everything, the floor, the ceiling, the walls, and they would put the camera in different places. And then I was on wires connected here at my waist, and they would hoist me up, and it was on a ratchet system. And I would jump, and then I would fly 300 feet, sometimes here, and then go way up in the air and come down. And it was fun. Yeah, really.
So the reaction on your face of fun, that was
fun. And then the next season, between the first and the second season, what happened was, that was the advent, the very, very beginning of digital technology. So they would put me on all of a sudden that big blue became green, and it was a room, wasn't too much bigger than half the size of this room. So they didn't need as much space to work in, and then they made a form-fitting bed for me that I would lie on, and the camera would then fly around me, and I didn't have to do any of the flying.
So that was pretty boring.
Yeah, it was boring. That was boring. And and another thing, you know, during shooting, our episodes took 7 days to shoot. So Monday through Friday we'd shoot, and then Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we'd start a new episode, and day in and day out, and that would go on for 8 or 9 months of the year, and then we would typically have 3.5 months off. That's the way that went. Well, I was working 65 hours, 70 hours a week, and I would never get a day off, and Connie and Bob would get a day off pretty much every 2 weeks, 10 days they'd have a day off, because it would be all me doing green screen, right? So I was exhausted at the end of that show, and I didn't want to work for a long time, you know.
Another question for Mr. Katt? Yes.
In my opinion, I think we all share that you were like one of the pioneers of superhero television. What is your honest opinion? I don't know if you've seen any of this stuff like Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, like any of the Gotham.
Yeah.
What is your opinion comparatively from then to now as how it's progressed? And what do you think?
Well, you know, I have seen some of those things. I think in general, the storytelling is different. It's all kind of darker. I think our show, it was more family friendly, and there was a morality tale in each of the episodes. There was a moral to it, and it left you upbeat, and it was fun. It was lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek. And I don't know that some of the shows today really achieve that. I don't know if they're morality pieces so much anymore. And I think maybe they're very consumed by the effects, by the computer-generated effects. They're able to do a lot more things, and it looks pretty cool. But I don't know. I like some of the old stuff. I like animatronics. You know, I like the old horror films in the 70s. You know, it was fun.
You were in another sequel to House, right? Was it?
No, I did a small role, but it was not worth mentioning, really. Not worth mentioning.
Another question for Mr. Katt. You, sir?
Speaking of House, any funny experiences working with Richard Mall on House?
No, honestly, Richard was a pretty serious guy.
Really?
Honestly, yeah. You know, he's a Shakespearean trained actor. And I think he really took that character, he really imbued it with that kind of sense of, he was playing a monster, and he played it. Yeah. I've seen Richard just in the last several years, though. He's just a delightful human being. I mean, I've seen him out and about at a couple of these things, and he was just lovely.
Yes?
Do you, you said you didn't like the suit, so did you keep any props or any part of your costumes from that time, or were you just done with it and you wanted to move on?
No, we ended on a Friday night. We were shooting out on location. Bob Culp was directing an episode, and I said goodbye to everyone. I got in my truck and I left. You know, but you have to remember, as I said, there was no conventions, there was no internet, there was none of that. There was no collectibles, there was no eBay. You know, there was nothing, so there was no reason to keep anything.
But you are an action figure.
An action figure.
Yes, you are.
Yes, but even at the time, they stopped those action figures. When the show came out, Warner Brothers quickly sued Stephen Cannell for copyright infringement on Superman. And it stopped any merchandising.
And though, actually, if you could find one of his, it was like a Mego doll, they are seriously collectible and worth a heck of a lot of money.
Yep.
And yeah, so I have to applaud you just for being an action figure. That's amazing. Another question for Mr. Katt? Yes?
So, you were obviously stuck in one genre for a lot of your career. Is there a genre you enjoy doing more than others as far as entertaining goes?
No, I love doing musicals in the theater. Love doing musicals. Pippin on Broadway was one of my very favorite things I ever did. Love working with Bob Fosse, Cheetah Rivera, Ben Vereen. I got to work with Randy Newman a number of years ago, about 2003, 2004. I got to work with Randy Newman and an extraordinary cast of actors up in Seattle, up at ACT. That was fantastic. That was something I loved doing. As I said, I went to school for music and theory. So what was a prerequisite on that last one was that we all could read staff music. So we all had to read music, and that's one of the reasons I got that role. Because we all sat around for 2 weeks reading from a big, thick book our parts, and we had to be able to read it, and sight read and sight sing. So that was pretty extraordinary for me. That was a lot of fun. I in general, love doing comedy. I think I have a good sense of timing. I'm very spontaneous. I'm good at improv given the right situation. We're working with good actors. I'm a good reactor. That would be what I'd like to do. I'd like to do more comedy if I could, but I don't know. You know.
I think I did read you had soundtrack credit. You did do something on the soundtrack?
I can't remember. I got to do years ago. It was a short-lived series with Ryan O'Neal and Farrah Fawcett. I got to play Farrah Fawcett's boyfriend. And
All right, yeah.
I got to kiss her.
Any other questions for Mr. Katt?
One more. The theme song, right? Like
Yes.
everybody loves the theme song. I still love it.
Yeah.
Are you sick of it? I mean, you must have heard it 20 times more than anybody else in the room.
It's
Or
paid my rent for a long time. You know what's interesting about it, just very quickly, that show became, I think that theme song, because it was so popular, thank you, Mike Post, it was so popular, it helped give this mythology to the show, you know, that's kept it alive. And then you had Seinfeld doing, on George's Answering Machine. And even a few years ago, Seth MacFarlane paid homage to it with the character Peter, you know, in that, in Family Guy, was wearing the suit behind the, you know, being dragged.
Have you ever seen a cosplayer dressed up in the costume?
No.
No. We've seen a few.
Really?
And at cons.
I love them.
And they're spot on. It's like they study you.
Wow.
All the way to your head. And it's just amazing. So I was wondering if you've ever seen any.
No.
Another question for Mr. Katt?
Well, thank you all very much. Oh yes, go ahead, I'm sorry. You were going to applaud? Yeah. You were applauding?
There we go.
Again, I've had so much fun. Thank you so much.